In the heart of Mother Vietnam, there was a man who devoted his entire life to the independence and freedom of his nation. His name is forever associated with victories that became part of world history. General Vo Nguyen Giap, the legendary commander and brilliant student of President Ho Chi Minh. He was born on August 25, 1911, in An Sa Village, Le Thuy District, Quang Binh Province, a land of white sands and scorching Lao winds that forged unyielding determination. From a young age, little Vo Nguyen Giap witnessed the devastation of his homeland under colonial rule. In that young heart, the flame of patriotism began to burn brightly. He studied at Quoc Hoc Hue School, a place once graced by many patriotic scholars. At just 15 years old, he joined movements demanding the release of Phan Boi Chau and mourning the death of Phan Chau Trinh. From that moment, his revolutionary path opened, arduous yet glorious. In 1940, Vo Nguyen Giap went to China, where he met President Ho Chi Minh. That encounter changed his entire life and also altered the destiny of the Vietnamese nation. Under Ho Chi Minh's guidance, he began building the Revolutionary Armed Forces. On December 22, 1944, in Tran Hung Dao Forest, the Vietnam Propaganda Liberation Army team was founded. 13 soldiers, 11 rifles, the humble beginning of what would later become the heroic Vietnam People's Army. Immediately after its founding, the team entered combat with two resounding victories, the battles of Phi Cot and Nam Gan, historic triumphs marking the first milestones in the growth of Vietnam's Revolutionary Armed Forces. Battle of Phi Cot, December 25, 1944. Just 3 days after its establishment, the team learned of an enemy garrison stationed at Phi Cot Post in Nguyen Binh District, Cao Bang Province. Under the direct command of Captain Hoang Sam and political commissar Vo Nguyen Giap, the soldiers secretly approached, dividing into several groups to encircle the post. With bold tactics, they launched a surprise attack at dawn, catching the enemy completely off guard. After 30 minutes of fierce fighting, the Phi Cot post was completely overrun. The team captured numerous weapons, uniforms, and ammunition. A glorious first victory that echoed through the mountains of Viet Bac and inspired the revolutionary spirit across the country. Battle of Nam Gan, December 26, 1944. Just 1 day after the Phi Cot victory, the team quickly advanced about 15 kilometers to the Nam Gan post. This time, the enemy was more alert, but thanks to the soldiers' courage and Vo Nguyen Giap's clever command, they launched another surprise night assault. The battle was short yet intense. The result, the entire enemy garrison was destroyed, and the team captured more weapons and supplies, with not a single soldier lost. These two consecutive victories proved the strength and fighting spirit of the young army, affirming the correctness of the party's and President Ho Chi Minh's strategy to build a people's armed force. From there, the banner of armed revolution was raised high throughout Viet Bac, beginning the proud tradition of winning the first battle. The more we fight, the more we win, of the heroic Vietnam People's Army. After more than 80 years under the yoke of French colonialism and Japanese fascism, under the leadership of the Indochinese Communist Party and President Ho Chi Minh, the Vietnamese people rose up to achieve a great revolution, the August Revolution of 1945. It was a historic turning point that opened a new era of independence and freedom for the nation. Historical background. At the beginning of 1945, World War II was nearing its end. Fascist Japan was facing defeat, and on March 9, 1945, it overthrew the French colonial administration in Indochina to seize full control of Vietnam. The situation ignited a powerful surge in the revolutionary movement throughout the country. Across rural and mountainous regions, Viet Minh units expanded rapidly, preparing both armed and political forces for the moment of a nationwide uprising. A once-in-a-thousand-years opportunity. On August 13, 1945, when Japan surrendered unconditionally to the Allied forces, the National Uprising Committee was established. That very night, the order for a general uprising was issued, calling upon the entire people to rise up and seize power before the Allies entered Indochina. Progress of the general uprising, August 14 to 18, 1945. The uprising first broke out in northern provinces such as Thanh Nguyen, Bac Giang, and Tuyen Quang. then quickly spread across the country. August 19, 1945, the people of Hanoi simultaneously rose up, seizing the Governor General's office, the police headquarters, the treasury, and other administrative buildings. The revolutionary government was established, marking a decisive victory for the national movement. August 20 to 25, the revolutionary wave swiftly spread to Hue, Da Nang, Quy Nhon, and Nha Trang. By August 25th, Saigon Yadin was completely liberated. August 30th, 1945, Emperor Bao Dai announced his abdication, ending more than 1,000 years of feudal monarchy in Vietnam. Results and significance. Within just 15 days, under the leadership of the Communist Party, the Vietnamese people overthrew colonial and feudal domination, seizing power across the entire country. On September 2, 1945, at Dien Square in Hanoi, President Ho Chi Minh solemnly read the Declaration of Independence, proclaiming the birth of the Democratic Republic of Vietnam, the first workers' and peasant state in Southeast Asia. The success of the August Revolution stands as one of the greatest victories in Vietnamese history, demonstrating the power of national unity, intelligence, and courage, opening a new era of independence, freedom, and happiness for the nation. With the triumph of the August Revolution in 1945, the Democratic Republic of Vietnam was born. When the resistance war against the French broke out, Nguyen Giap was entrusted with the role of commander-in-chief. The border campaign of 1950. After more than 5 years of resistance against French colonialism, 1945 to 1950, the Vietnamese revolutionary forces had grown stronger but still faced great challenges due to blockades, lack of weapons, and limited international contact. To break the encirclement, expand liberated zones, and open the route for aid from socialist countries, the Politburo and President Ho Chi Minh decided to launch the Autumn-Winter Border Campaign of 1950. Objectives of the campaign: eliminate enemy forces and liberate the Vietnam-China border area. Open an international communication route. Consolidate and expand the Viet Bac base area. Elevate the position of the Vietnam People's Army and create momentum for greater victories ahead. Forces in command: the campaign was directly commanded by General Nguyen Giap, leading about 35,000 officers and soldiers. The main offensive direction was Route 4, Cao Bang Lang Son, where the French had built a dense system of forts and posts to control the border. Main developments: on September 16, 1950, the Vietnamese forces launched the opening attack with the Battle of Dong Quai, Lang Son. After 2 days of fierce combat, they completely destroyed this stronghold, a key point in the French defensive line. Facing the risk of encirclement, the French decided to withdraw their troops from Cao Bang to That Quai, while simultaneously sending reinforcements from That Quai northward. However, both French columns were ambushed and annihilated by Vietnamese forces at multiple points along Route 4, such as Khao Luong, Coc Sa, and Ban Kheo. By October 4, 1950, the campaign ended in a complete victory. The Vietnamese forces wiped out and captured over 8,000 enemy soldiers, seizing thousands of tons of weapons, ammunition, and military equipment. Results and historical significance. The 1950 border campaign was a brilliant milestone in the resistance war against the French. The Vietnamese army liberated a vast border region stretching from Cao Bang to Dien Lap, Lang Son. The international communication line with China and the Soviet Union was opened, allowing Vietnam to receive aid in weapons, supplies, and training. For the first time, the Vietnam People's Army launched a large-scale, multi-branch coordinated campaign demonstrating remarkable growth in strategy and command. The defeat forced the French to change their military strategy, marking the beginning of their decline, and eventually leading to their total defeat at Dien Bien Phu in 1954. The border victory of 1950 was not only a military turning point, but also a political and diplomatic one, affirming the position of the Democratic Republic of Vietnam on the international stage and strengthening the people's faith in ultimate victory in the long resistance for independence and freedom. The Dien Bien Phu campaign was the pinnacle of Vietnam's resistance against French colonialism, 1945 to 1954, a monumental victory that left a shining mark in the history of Vietnam and the global anti-colonial movement. Historical background. By the end of 1953, after a series of military failures, the French, with American support, devised the Navarre Plan, aiming to concentrate elite forces to build Dien Bien Phu in Lai Chau province, now Dien Bien, into an impregnable fortress. Their intention was to lure and destroy the main forces of the Viet Minh in a decisive battle. However, with profound strategic foresight, the Communist Party of Vietnam and President Ho Chi Minh decided to choose Dien Bien Phu as the location for a decisive battle to annihilate a large portion of the enemy's strength and change the course of the war. Forces and command. The campaign was directly commanded by General Nguyen Giap, leading about 55,000 officers and soldiers, including 33 battalions of artillery, anti-aircraft, and engineers, supported by tens of thousands of civilian laborers and supply porters. The French, under General de Castries, had more than 16,000 troops, well-equipped with modern weaponry, supplied by air through an airfield, and defended by a fortified system of 49 strongpoints divided into 3 zones: North, Him Lam; Central, Muang Thang; South. Course of the campaign. The Dien Bien Phu campaign was divided into 3 major attack phases, lasting 56 days and nights from March 13 to May 7, 1954. Phase 1, March 13 to 17, 1954. The Vietnamese army opened fire with an assault on the Him Lam strongpoint. After nearly 5 hours of fierce fighting, the entire enemy garrison was destroyed, opening the northern gateway to the fortified complex. From March 15 to 17, the Viet Minh successively captured Dak Lap and Ban Kheo, completely taking control of the northern sector. Phase 2, March 30 to April 26, 1954, Vietnamese forces launched a major offensive on the Muang Tan central area, where the French concentrated their strongest forces. The strong points E1, A1, C1, and D1 were gradually captured or tightly encircled. The enemy launched desperate counterattacks, using aircraft for heavy bombing and intense artillery fire, but could not reverse the situation. Meanwhile, thousands of tons of weapons and food were transported day and night across mountains and streams by civilian porters, a heroic effort that played a decisive role in the campaign's success. Phase 3, May 1 to 7, 1954, the Vietnamese forces launched a full-scale general offensive. On the night of May 6th and early morning of May 7th, after hours of fierce fighting, they captured the A1 strongpoint, opening the direct route to the enemy headquarters. By the afternoon of May 7, 1954, General de Castries and the entire French command surrendered unconditionally. The flag emblazoned with the words, "Determined to fight, determined to win," flew proudly atop the command bunker, marking the complete victory of the Vietnamese army and people. Results and historical significance. Over 16,000 enemy troops were killed or captured. Hundreds of aircraft were shot down or destroyed, and all weapons and equipment were seized. The Dien Bien Phu victory completely shattered the Navarre Plan, crushing the French colonialists' will to invade. At the Geneva Conference, July 1954, France was forced to sign an agreement recognizing Vietnam's independence, sovereignty, unity, and territorial integrity. This victory was one of the greatest feats of the 20th century, hailed worldwide as the resounding victory that shook the 5 continents and shook the world. The Dien Bien Phu campaign stands as a radiant symbol of the indomitable Vietnamese spirit, of the unity and strength of the entire nation under the leadership of the party and President Ho Chi Minh. It affirmed the eternal truth: nothing is more precious than independence and freedom. With that unwavering faith, the Vietnamese people achieved a miracle that inspired the entire world, a pinnacle of Vietnamese military art, etching General Nguyen Giap's name forever into the history of humankind. For 56 days and nights of digging through mountains, sleeping in tunnels, enduring rains, and eating cold rice, the Vietnamese army and people forged the victory that was resounding across the 5 continents and shaking the globe. The Great Spring Victory of 1975 was the greatest triumph in modern Vietnamese history, bringing a complete end to the 21-year-long resistance against U.S. intervention, liberating the South and reuniting the country. Historical background. After the Paris Agreement of 1973, U.S. forces were forced to withdraw completely from Vietnam. However, the Saigon regime stubbornly continued the war, sustained by massive American aid. Meanwhile, the socialist North had recovered from the war with greatly strengthened military and logistical capacities, creating favorable conditions for a decisive final offensive. In December 1974, the Politburo of the Communist Party of Vietnam met and decided to launch the Spring 1975 General Offensive and Uprising under the strategy of fast strike, fast victory to liberate the South in the shortest possible time. The campaign was divided into three major phases. 1. The Central Highlands Campaign, March 1975, the lightning opening. The campaign began with the Battle of Buon Ma Thuot, Dak Lak Province, the strategic heart of the Central Highlands. On March 10, 1975, Vietnamese forces launched a surprise assault, capturing the entire town within just 2 days. This stunning victory caused the enemy's entire Central Highlands defensive system to collapse. In panic, the Saigon forces retreated chaotically along Route 7, only to be relentlessly pursued and annihilated. By March 24, 1975, the entire Central Highlands was liberated, a decisive strategic turning point that forced the enemy into complete disarray and loss of initiative. 2. The Hue Da Nang Campaign, March-April 1975. Swift and bold, seizing the momentum, the Politburo directed operations with the motto, swift, bold, surprising, and certain victory. The army shifted its attack toward Tri Thien and Region 5. On March 25, 1975, Vietnamese forces entered and liberated Thu Thien Huy Province. Just 4 days later, on March 29, Da Nang, the largest military base in central Vietnam, was completely liberated. In less than 20 days, the Vietnamese army had gained control of the entire Central and Central Highlands regions, destroying or disbanding nearly 400,000 enemy troops and opening the gateway to the south. Number 3. The Ho Chi Minh Campaign, April 26 to 30th, 1975. The historic decisive blow. Following the consecutive victories, the Politburo and Central Military Commission launched the historic Ho Chi Minh Campaign with the ultimate goal of liberating Saigon Gia Dinh and ending the war once and for all. On April 26, 1975, our forces simultaneously opened fire across the entire front. 5 main army divisions advanced toward the city center from the north, northwest, west, east, and southeast. At dawn on April 30th, our units broke through the outer defensive lines and pushed straight into the city. At 11:30 a.m. the same day, tank number 390 of the 203rd Brigade crashed through the gates of the Independence Palace, capturing the entire Saigon administration cabinet, forcing their unconditional surrender. The revolutionary flag flew proudly atop the palace, marking the complete victory of the resistance war against the United States for national salvation. Results and historical significance: the complete liberation of South Vietnam and reunification of the country after 21 years of division. The total collapse of the Saigon puppet regime and U.S.-backed military forces. The opening of a new era of independence, unity, and socialist construction for the Vietnamese nation. A strong inspiration to national liberation movements around the world, affirming Vietnam's position and resilience in the modern era. The Great Spring Victory of 1975 stands as a shining symbol of the spirit. Nothing is more precious than independence and freedom. It represents the crystallization of the great unity of the Vietnamese people and the wise, strategic leadership of the Communist Party and President Ho Chi Minh. From that moment, the nation was reunited, ushering in a period of peace, independence, and reconstruction, a new era in the history of heroic Vietnam. 20 years later, during the resistance war against the United States, General Nguyen Giap once again contributed to the triumph of the Great Spring Offensive of 1975, the day the nation was reunified. He was called the Napoleon of the East, but to him, war was never about conquest. It was about restoring peace. He once said, "War is only a last resort. The ultimate goal is independence for the fatherland and happiness for the people." He was a general who never attended a military academy, yet commanded an army that defeated two of the most powerful empires of the 20th century. Military academies around the world have studied his strategies, considering him a living legend. After the war, he lived a simple, humble life, dedicating himself entirely to the country and the people. The Vietnamese affectionately called him the People's General. On October 4th, 2013, General Nguyen Giap passed away at the age of 103. Millions of people from north to south, young and old, lined the streets in silent farewell. That sea of mourners was a testament to eternal love and reverence. More than a century later, his name still lives on with the nation's mountains and rivers. He is not only the general of victories, but also a symbol of patriotism, Vietnamese intellect, and the yearning for peace. The general has departed, but his example forever remains, a torch lighting the path for generations to come. Thank you for watching until the end of the video. If you enjoyed the stories from Vietnamese Storytell, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss our upcoming stories. See you in the next video.